How to build a ruthless mind, so ruthless it paralyzes people. Welcome to Truth 001. Introduction: The dangerous power of a ruthless mind. Most people think power is loud. They think dominance comes from shouting. They think intimidation is about aggression. But the most dangerous people in the world are silent. They don't argue. They don't explain. They don't beg to be understood. They simply decide. And once they decide, reality adjusts. Today, we are not talking about cruelty. We are not talking about evil. We are talking about mental ruthlessness, the ability to think clearly when others are drowning in emotion, fear, or confusion. A ruthless mind does not react. A ruthless mind calculates. And that is why it paralyzes people. Because when someone realizes, you can't be manipulated, you can't be rushed, you can't be emotionally hijacked, they freeze. They don't know which button to press. Why most people are weak without knowing it. Let's be honest, most people don't think, they react. They react to insults, opinions, pressure, fear of being misunderstood, fear of being disliked. Their emotions control their decisions. That is weakness. Not because emotions are bad, but because uncontrolled emotions make you predictable. And predictable people are easy to manipulate. If someone knows what makes you angry, what makes you desperate, what makes you insecure, they already control you. A ruthless mind removes this access. What ruthless really means and what it does not. Let's clear this up. Ruthlessness is not being wicked. Ruthlessness is not lacking empathy. Ruthlessness is not being heartless. True ruthlessness is self-mastery. It is the ability to say, I feel this, but I will not act on it. It is emotional discipline. It is mental silence in chaos. It is choosing logic over impulse. Most people confuse kindness with weakness. A ruthless mind is kind by choice, not by fear. And that difference changes everything. Why a ruthless mind paralyzes people? People expect reactions. They expect anger, explanation, defense, justification. When they don't get it, they panic. Silence unsettles weak minds. Calm unnerves emotional people. Clarity intimidates confusion. A ruthless mind doesn't chase validation. It doesn't explain itself to be accepted. It doesn't fight every battle. And when people realize, I can't provoke you, I can't read you, I can't control you, they hesitate. Hesitation is paralysis. The first law of a ruthless mind, emotional detachment. If you remember nothing else from this video, remember this. You cannot think clearly while emotionally attached. Attachment blinds judgment. That attachment may be wanting approval, wanting love, wanting recognition, wanting revenge. Once your mind is emotionally invested, your decisions are compromised. A ruthless mind observes emotions, it does not obey them. It asks, what is the smartest move here? Not, how do I feel right now? That question alone separates leaders from followers. Why most people fear developing this mindset? Because it's lonely. A ruthless mind sees through illusions. It sees fake friendships, empty promises, performative loyalty. And once you see clearly, you cannot unsee. You stop needing constant validation, emotional reassurance, external approval. This terrifies people because society rewards emotional dependency. But power requires independence. A ruthless mind is not built overnight. It is built by awareness, discipline, pain, and brutal honesty with yourself. This is Truth 001, and this is only the beginning.
Emotions, the most common weapon used against you. If you ever want to understand why most people fail in life, relationships, business, or power, look at their emotions. Not because emotions are evil, but because uncontrolled emotions are exploitable. Every system that controls human beings understands this. They don't control people with logic. They control people with fear, hope, guilt, shame, desire. A ruthless mind recognizes emotions for what they are, signals, not commands. How people use emotions to manipulate you. Let's break it down. When someone wants to control you, they will try to make you angry, so you react, make you afraid, so you submit, make you guilty, so you comply, make you hopeful, so you wait. If they succeed, you stop thinking. And the moment you stop thinking, you lose power. That's why arguments escalate. That's why insults work. That's why pressure tactics succeed. Not because they are strong, but because you reacted emotionally. A ruthless mind denies them that access. The trap of immediate reaction. Most people believe reacting fast means confidence. It doesn't. Fast reactions usually mean lack of control. Think about it. The person who shouts first loses leverage. The person who explains too much reveals insecurity. The person who reacts instantly exposes emotional investment. A ruthless mind pauses. That pause is deadly, because in that pause, you observe, you calculate, you decide, while the other person is still emotional. Why silence is terrifying to weak minds. Silence creates uncertainty, and uncertainty is unbearable for people who need control. When you stay silent, they don't know what you're thinking, they don't know how you feel, they don't know what you'll do, so they project. They talk more, they reveal more, they make mistakes. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is pressure. A ruthless mind knows when to speak and when not to. Detachment does not mean apathy. This is important. A ruthless mind still feels, but it does not let feelings decide outcomes. You can care deeply and still walk away. You can love and still say no. You can feel anger and still stay calm. That ability is rare, and rarity creates power. The moment you become unpredictable. Once people realize insults don't move you, praise doesn't inflate you, pressure doesn't rush you, they become cautious. Why? Because predictable people are easy. Unpredictable people are dangerous. A ruthless mind does not act the same way twice just to be understood. It acts based on strategy, not expectation. Why most people will call you cold. When you stop reacting emotionally, something happens. People start projecting their discomfort onto you. They will say, "You've changed. You're cold. You think you're better than others." What they really mean is, "I no longer have emotional access to you," and that bothers them. A ruthless mind accepts this without explanation. You do not owe clarity to people who benefited from your confusion. The second law of a ruthless mind. Control the inner, command the outer. If you cannot control your anger, your fear, your need for approval, you will always be controlled. But once you master the inner world, the outer world starts responding differently. People listen more. They hesitate more. They respect boundaries they once ignored. Not because you demanded it, but because your presence changed. This is Truth 001.
Why most people are addicted to drama and how calm makes you intimidating. Most people don't realize this about themselves. They are addicted to drama. Not because they enjoy chaos consciously, but because drama gives them identity. Noise makes them feel alive. Conflict makes them feel important. Emotional turbulence makes them feel seen. Remove the drama, and they feel empty. A ruthless mind understands this weakness and never feeds it. Drama is emotional entertainment for the weak. Look closely. People who crave drama often gossip constantly, create unnecessary conflict, exaggerate situations, turn small issues into big problems. Why? Because silence forces self-reflection, and self-reflection is uncomfortable. Drama distracts them from their lack of direction, their unresolved fears, their personal failures. A ruthless mind does not participate, and that refusal alone sets you apart. Why calm people appear threatening. Here's something most people won't admit. A calm person in a chaotic environment is disturbing. Why? Because calm exposes emotional instability. When you remain composed, angry people feel foolish, manipulators feel powerless, insecure people feel exposed. Your calm becomes a mirror, and many people hate what they see. This is why calm individuals are often labeled arrogant, distant, suspicious. Not because they are, but because they are unavailable to chaos. The psychology of emotional starvation. Here's a ruthless truth. People who try to provoke you are seeking emotional supply. They want a reaction, a response, validation of their importance. When you deny them this, something happens. They become restless. They escalate. They expose themselves. Because emotional manipulators rely on feedback. A ruthless mind starves them. No reaction, no explanation, no emotional reward. Silence becomes suffocation. Why explaining yourself is a weakness. Most people explain too much. They explain their decisions, their boundaries, their silence. Why? Because they want approval. A ruthless mind understands this. People who respect you don't need explanations. People who don't respect you won't accept them anyway. Over-explaining signals insecurity. Clarity does not need defense. The third law of a ruthless mind: remove yourself from emotional markets. An emotional market is any space where attention is traded for chaos, reactions are rewarded, drama equals relevance. This could be toxic friendships, dysfunctional families, social media arguments, power struggles with insecure people. A ruthless mind exits these spaces quietly. No announcement, no argument, no revenge, just absence. And absence is louder than confrontation. Why your withdrawal creates power. When you stop engaging emotionally, people start chasing clarity. They replay past interactions. They question their own behavior. You didn't fight. You didn't explain. You didn't react. You simply removed access. That shift rewires the power dynamic. The hard truth. Not everyone deserves access to your mind. Not everyone deserves your emotional energy. A ruthless mind is selective, and selection is power. This is Truth 001.
Say less. See more. How observation creates psychological dominance. Most people talk too much. They talk when they are nervous. They talk when they want to be liked. They talk when they want control. And in doing so, they reveal everything. A ruthless mind understands one simple truth. The more you speak, the more power you give away. Why people reveal themselves without realizing it. Watch closely. When people talk freely, they expose their fears, their insecurities, their intentions, their ambitions. They tell you what they value, what they envy, what they lack. Not through what they say directly, but through how they say it. A ruthless mind listens more than it speaks, because information is leverage. The art of controlled speech. Controlled speech is not silence, it is precision. A ruthless mind speaks only when necessary, chooses words carefully, leaves space for interpretation. Why? Because ambiguity creates authority. People respect what they cannot fully read. Why questions are more powerful than statements. Statements expose position. Questions extract information. When you ask the right questions, people talk, people justify, people explain, people contradict themselves, all while you remain neutral. A ruthless mind uses questions as mirrors. The other person sees themselves, often for the first time. Patience, the most underrated form of dominance. Most people rush. They rush to respond, decide, defend. Impatience makes them sloppy. A ruthless mind waits. While others rush, you observe. While others panic, you calculate. While others react, you plan. Patience allows patterns to emerge, masks to fall, truth to surface. Time always exposes intent. Why confrontation is overrated. Confrontation feels powerful, but it often benefits the other person. Why? Because confrontation gives them attention, emotional release, a stage. A ruthless mind avoids unnecessary confrontation. Instead, it watches, documents mentally, adjusts strategy.
And when action is taken, it is final. No drama, no warning, no debate.
Boundaries, disappearance, and the power of final decisions. Most people suffer not because they are weak, but because they allow access where it is not deserved. They keep explaining, they keep forgiving, they keep reopening doors that should have remained closed. A ruthless mind does not do this. Once it decides, it acts completely. Why boundaries are not negotiable. A boundary is not a request. It is not a discussion. It is not a threat. A boundary is a line. And every time you allow someone to cross it without consequence, you teach them that your words mean nothing. A ruthless mind enforces boundaries silently. No anger, no long speech, just consequences. The most powerful move is often disappearance. There are situations where explanation is unnecessary, not because you are cruel, but because clarity has already been abused. When people repeatedly disrespect you, manipulate your emotions, ignore your limits, further conversation is wasted energy. A ruthless mind withdraws, and withdrawal creates vacuum. Why cutting people off shocks them? People are used to cycles: fight, apology, forgiveness, repeat. When you remove yourself permanently, you break the pattern. No closure, no argument, no access. This shocks people because it forces them to face consequences without emotional cushioning. Silence becomes the message. The difference between emotional and strategic cutoff. An emotional cutoff is dramatic. It seeks reaction. A strategic cutoff is quiet. It seeks peace. A ruthless mind does not announce exits. It simply becomes unavailable, and unavailability is power. The fifth law of a ruthless mind: access is earned. Not everyone deserves your time, your thoughts, your explanations, your emotional labor. Access is a privilege, and a ruthless mind revokes privileges without guilt. Why guilt is the last weapon used against you. When people lose access, they use guilt. They say, "After all I've done, you've changed. You're heartless." These are not arguments, they are emotional hooks. A ruthless mind recognizes guilt as manipulation and refuses to bite. The moment your life changes, your life shifts when you stop negotiating boundaries, you stop reopening closed doors, you stop fearing loneliness, because solitude with clarity is better than company with chaos. This is Truth 001.
The fully ruthless mind. Power without noise. At this stage, something has changed. You no longer feel the urge to react to everything. You no longer feel the need to explain yourself. You no longer feel obligated to be emotionally available to everyone. This is what a fully developed ruthless mind looks like. Not loud, not aggressive, not performative, just clear. What a ruthless mind looks like in daily life. A ruthless mind moves differently. It responds, not reacts, observes before acting, chooses battles carefully, walks away without guilt. It doesn't rush decisions. It doesn't chase validation. It doesn't argue with disrespect. It knows that energy is finite, and it protects it fiercely. Why respect follows you without force? Here's the irony. The moment you stop demanding respect, people start offering it. Why? Because You don't tolerate nonsense. You don't overextend yourself. You don't seek approval. Your calm becomes authority. People sense emotional stability, internal discipline, psychological boundaries, and they adjust automatically. No threats required, no intimidation needed. The difference between ruthless and bitter. This matters. Bitterness comes from unhealed wounds. Ruthlessness comes from understanding. A bitter person reacts. A ruthless person chooses. A bitter person wants revenge. A ruthless person wants peace. A ruthless mind is not angry. It is resolved. Why this path is not for everyone. Most people cannot live this way because it requires self-honesty, emotional discipline, comfort with solitude, letting go of weak attachments. Many prefer noise, many prefer chaos, many prefer emotional dependency, and that's fine. But power belongs to those who choose clarity. The final law of a ruthless mind: you owe no one access to your inner world. You are not obligated to explain yourself. You are not obligated to stay accessible. You are not obligated to remain where you are disrespected. Peace is not weakness. Silence is not fear. Distance is not cruelty. They are strategy. The moment you realize you've changed, you'll know, because arguments no longer excite you. Drama feels exhausting. Silence feels powerful. Clarity feels addictive. You stop proving. You stop chasing. You stop reacting. And people feel it. They may not understand you, but they will respect you. A ruthless mind is not built to dominate others. It is built to free yourself from manipulation, from emotional chaos, from unnecessary battles. This is not about becoming feared. It's about becoming unshakable. This is Truth 001. If this resonated with you, you already know you're not like most people. End.